Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks Pro. Let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Minded Accountant podcast. Today's topic is how to prepare a client interview in 5 minutes or less using AI. So I kind of want to paint a story here. Again, these are what I call our tax season micro versions of our Growth Minded Accountant podcast. So I kind of want to just paint a picture for you. I'm going to give you some serious takeaways. This one is not going to last long. So let's look at it this way. So most of us don't feel unprepared for client interviews because we don't care. It's more that you're back to back. All of a sudden, your calendar reminder comes up and it says, "Hey, it's time to interview so and so," right? And I just went through my own client interview, so I know exactly kind of the client view, the client side of this. So, and it's not because we feel like we're unprepared because it's tax season. It's more back to back meetings. It's no time to reread prior returns, perhaps. Maybe there's not notes or some sort of summary about that client and their life situation. So you have to almost memorize every single client. If you have different staff working with clients, if you have a little changeover, this becomes a problem, right? So the reality is the goal isn't perfect prep, right? It's directional awareness. And I'm going to talk about how you can do this. So you don't need 30 minutes to prep for a great client interview. Quite honestly, you just need 5 minutes, and I'm going to tell you how that works. And I'm going to give you some samples on the right inputs to use. So the old way, you're skimming last year's tax return. You're like quickly going through it, right? Hoping to insights surface mid-meeting. You're kind of looking at it while you're talking to the client. Maybe you ask them an open-ended question to start. But the new way, let AI, this is where AI is truly powerful. It can scan old tax returns. It can compare tax returns. It can look at the documents that your client has uploaded, and it can find patterns, perhaps changes, even flags. It can make proactive recommendations. And more importantly, it can give you a detailed checklist or like almost an interview script on the questions based on that historical data on what to ask your clients, right? So better questions will get you better details and help you do a better job, and I think in more time. So, let's think about this. A client you worked with 5 or 10 years, right? There's context. Perhaps they had income changes. Someone got a raise. Someone did a job change. Life changes. Maybe they had a child. Maybe they have a parent who's going into assisted living. Perhaps there's some business changes. Maybe they're thinking of selling their company or starting one, right? So you got to realize you don't have all this top of mind. You're not an encyclopedia at this point. And tax season, quite honestly, punishes memory gaps, right? So that's when AI comes in as your thinking partner, not a replacement. Think of this as labor. Think of this as doing background thinking for you to make your job much easier. And it will surface these strategies, these talking points, these questions, literally in moments. So I'll give you a kind of a workflow of how this works. So gather inputs, right? So this is no new work. You have last year's tax return. Hopefully you have, if it's a business, you have their latest financials. If it's a tax client, they've already uploaded their tax documents. So, if you're using AI tools like Max and CountingWorks Pro, you're able to scrape all that data into context to help you start this process. So hopefully you've had notes. If you're using a powerful CRM, you have notes from previous meetings, and all of that should be usable by your AI tools to be able to come up with a kind of a review. So if you wanted to do this as a separate prompt, so Max, we're setting it up to, if you use Max and you ask these questions, it will always surface all this data. So we store all this context kind of in like a memory, so to speak. But you could write a prompt like this. So review the attached prior year tax returns and financials. Summarize any notable changes, trends, or potential discussion points that I should be aware of during this upcoming client interview. Then generate, 5 thoughtful questions I can ask to better understand the client's situation and future plans. You can even take this a step further. If you had prepared even before, you could actually have a short intake form that was already sent to the client that asks these questions, that identifies these questions. So by the time you come in, you already have a base for the conversation. But either way, this is a way to start it, right? So what you're trying to do is this is about conversation prep, right? Not necessarily tax advice. So you're using AI to surface thinking prompts, okay? So when I talk about Max, this is how we use it internally with our clients. So Max can generate client interview checklists. It does this in moments, personalized to each client because we're scraping all this data. We know what's in that tax return. We know what's in that financials. We know what other tax documents they've loaded. So we have all this historical data. So what happens is the tool starts finding all this information for you very quickly, right? So you as an advisor don't necessarily have to memorize every single client, but you do need to prepare for them. So 5 minutes of prep changes the entire tone of your meeting and how clients see you. So you don't need 30 minutes to prep for tax interview. You just need five. Okay. So, just going back here, review, upload last year's tax return or financials into an AI tool and ask what's changed, what matters, what should I ask? It's going to create that interview checklist for you. And I'll even give you a shorter prompt. Summarize key changes and generate 5 client interview questions based on this return. Okay. If you want to use a tool that's even more personalized, like Max, you're going to get a lot more quality and detail. And again, we suggest either checklists, interview checklists, or even an intake form to kind of help. So that's how we're using our technology to personalize interviews, checklists in minutes or moments. Obviously, whatever AI tool that you trust that has secure firewalls that your client data is not given to the open AI world, the better for you. So you don't have to relearn something. You don't have to hire another assistant. You're just going to be able to do your job even better. So tax season, doesn't excuse bad preparation, being rushed. That clients hate that, right? It's almost like the reverse when you're talking to your lawyer, you're trying to get off the call as soon as possible. If your client feels that way when you're interviewing them and you're not prepared, it's kind of the same takeaway. So that is my quick hit for this Growth Minded Accountant podcast. Again, we're doing short ones during tax season, just trying to find different things. I've gone over how to interview your clients, how to close an interview. So I had, what are some open-ended questions to start the tax interview 2 weeks ago? What is the close interview to kind of set up advisory for post-tax season? Now I'm telling you, hey, this is how you should prepare for an interview, whether again, it's a tax client or even, your quarterly or monthly bookkeeping client. So I hope these tips are helpful. We're going to continue on through the end of tax season with these short ones. Again, continue to subscribe, add any comments or questions. We appreciate you being a follower of the Growth Minded Accountant here at CountingWorks and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.